and 1 absent.
Let the record show that Commissioner Fortune is absent tonight. At this time, we will join with Commissioner Sorge with the prayer and the pledge while he has a mouthful of cookie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Fellow Commissioners, Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which will greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver Bow. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance, to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, John. Okay, at this time, I would ask for any public comment on any item that is on the agenda, and that also includes our Judiciary Committee that we just were listening to. So if you'll just come to the microphone and give me your name and address for the record.
John Slickemeyer, 2715 Goodwin. I'm commenting on 2021-296. After doing some much study on this, I've come to the conclusion the best way to take care of this is to form a little committee between from each district, have them meet together with Eileen, JP, the sheriff, and Commissioner Anderson, and Michelle, and hash this out. Everything I've seen in the code, in the annotated code, says it can be done. I would just ask that we do set up a meeting with 2 representatives from each district at the Commissioner's choice, and we set that meeting up with Eileen. I'd like to get this done, and I'd like to get this hashed out and make it equitable for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments on any item that is on tonight's agenda? Please come forward. Thank you. Andrea?
Hi, I'm Andre O'Shea. I live up on Caledonia Street. First, I just want to thank you all for, especially the Judiciary Committee for continuing, and Michelle Shea and Bill Anderson for continuing to work, and all the commissioners, I guess, for continuing to work on, all of a sudden I feel so like I need to be on my tippy toes, sorry. For continuing to work on this, public nuisance ordinance, or if it will be a code. Either way, that's great. I totally agree with what Bill had said earlier about it needing to be an enforcement. That's what we were running into a lot, was how do they enforce this? How do they enforce this? How do they enforce this? One thing I'll just bring up, which I think is kind of funny, is just ironic, kind of, is in our own Silver Bow ordinances 13-6, page 17, which is just about excavating dirt. There's a section that you've already written, by the way. I don't know if it was at this exact commission, but I think there's one that I saw Cindy Shaw was on the bottom of. But if you need to excavate dirt, of course, you've got to get a permit and do all these things. So, but ironically, on the bottom of it, on page 17, there is violations deemed a public nuisance. And we all know public nuisance is about safety. It's about being able to enjoy your property without, running into problems. So under this section on D, this is spelled out exactly how the state law is spelled out. And it's got, if you go against it, it tells you exactly like what fines need to be done, how it needs to be abated, and it's taken right off of the state law. So it says violations deemed a public nuisance. In addition to the enforcement processes and penalties provided, any condition caused or permitted to exist in violation of any of the provisions of this chapter is a threat to public health, safety, and welfare, and is declared and deemed a nuisance and may be summarily abated or restored at the applicant's expense, and/or civil action to abate, enjoin, or otherwise compel the cessation of such nuisance may be taken. So this is all we're asking you to write for drug and criminal houses. It's the same thing. I mean, if we have to be careful when we're excavating dirt and we can deem it a public nuisance, then isn't there, I mean, we have 180 videos that will show you there's no health and safety issue that we dealt with. We were in clear danger every day where we lived, and you know, it's written here. You guys wrote this. It was clear. It's concise. And then after this, of course, it's clear as to how to abate it. You know, how to enforce it, if you want to say. Which fines are put onto it at different times. What the time limit is, and then what happens at the end if this person doesn't take care of the problem. Simple. So you've already written it. So just now put it toward drug and criminal houses. Great. Thank you very much for working on this.
Thank you, Andrew. Anybody else would like to comment on any item on tonight's agenda? Going once? Okay. Seeing none, move on to the report of the chair. Thank you all for taking care of things while I was not here last week. You wouldn't want to have me here coughing and hacking, so I'm glad to be back. And I don't know if everybody has not told Barb yet about the Christmas party, if you plan on going. I mean, I'm sure she probably knows by now how many numbers, but all right, thank you. And I think looking forward to that. That'll be a very nice evening for us on the 17th. Otherwise, I don't really have anything else to report, so let's just move right on into our Section 1, bid openings, public hearings, and or presentations. We have a presentation this evening, communication number 2021-551. Holly Sandbo, Northern Rockies Outreach and Engagement Manager, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence for a time on the December 8th, 2021 agenda to present on local efforts to establish a National Historical Park, NHP, in Butte. Holly, welcome back. Oh, there's Maria and Aubrey. Okay.
It's a lie. I'm here. Okay, sure.
Maria?
I have to give a minute, so I guess we're... However, my little chat has, I don't need the presentation, so do you want me to still wait? Okay.
You can introduce yourself.
Pardon me? No, I'm not on that, so, okay. Just so that you know, I'm Maria Porchavina. I reside at 2511 Parrott Street with my husband, handsome Michael. But for purposes of this evening, I'm here from the Chamber of Commerce with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Tourism Business Improvement District. I am slated with 2 pots of money to promote tourism for Butte-Silver. So I just wanted to give you just a little bit of information before Holly gets up to chat. Some things for you to kind of niggle in the back of your brain while she's chatting, because she has a really nice presentation. We're looking at doing something, we're bringing forth an idea, something we have been talking about in a group since before COVID. Isn't it funny? We talk about before COVID, during COVID, after COVID. The idea of a National Historic Park designation for Butte. Some of the things I'm going to say are things that you already know, and you don't need me to tell you, but you know of our perfect location between Yellowstone and Glacier National Parks, of the I-15, I-90 corridor. But something you might not be as aware of is that the attractions here in Butte, and when I'm referring to the attractions, I'm not talking about the outdoor recreation as much as I'm talking about the facilities that have all to do with our mining history. That is our history. It's not going to go away, just like that big pit of water that we have or those big black steel structures. We need to embrace them, and we need to share that story. It's difficult to make this a cohesive group when you're looking at almost 20 attractions, all of which in one way or another has to do with our history and telling that story. Something that I do want to come and I want to share with you is the branding session that the TBID funded, and the tourism entity will be known now as Butte, Montana, Wildly Historic. And I think nothing speaks to us more than the fact that we brought together a lot of different ethnicities, a lot of men, a lot of women, a lot of stories, and no place else in Montana has the wildest history that Butte has. But there has to be a way to bring everything together with regard to our attractions. There needs to be a cohesiveness. Something that we are finding for the first time in I don't know how many years, the 38 years that I've been a part of this community, the Berkeley Pit is still open for visitors and will continue to be until either the weather gets so bad that it's no longer feasible to allow visitors out on the deck, or it just simply gets too cold. But here we are in December and we're still having visitors up at the Berkeley Pit. The World Museum of Mining is still open. Traditionally, they closed at the end of October. They still are welcoming visitors. The Copper King Mansion, which historically, when they closed, except for their bed and breakfast, they're still allowing visitors to come with prior notification. We're seeing a lot more flexibility with our attractions. Father Radojicic at the Holy Trinity Serbian Church does tours at the church and talks about Orthodoxy a bit and how the scriptures are depicted in the frescoes and the icon screen. So this idea for me with regard to tourism brings that all together as a National Historic Park, that designation. With regard to who comes through this area, this is a very small snippet. It comes from the ITRR, the Institute of Tourism and Recreation Research out of the University of Montana, which is funded through bed tax dollars, which is also one of my pots of money. But for the visitors in 2021, 2020, and 2019, between 60% and mid-50s, all of those visitors were visiting both parks, Yellowstone and Glacier. For those visitors over the same time frame that spent one night in Butte, 71% in 2021, as of the dates, the first 3 quarters, 71% visited Glacier, 45% visited Yellowstone. In 2020, 73 were at Yellowstone. So we're seeing a significant number, and that's not something that you're not, that isn't familiar to you. It's just neat to know that we have statistics. Yellowstone in 2019 had 3.5 million visitors. In 2020, 3.8 million. Through August 19th of 2021, they had 2.68 million. Glacier's numbers in 2019, 3 million. In 2021, 0.69. And through September of 2021, 3 million. In 2020, the state of Montana saw 11.13 million visitors to the state, which was down 12% from 2019. It's a significant number of people who come through this state, and that's not surprising. But as Holly is visiting with you, those are some numbers to keep in mind. As I've talked to you before, I share that our tourism region is Southwest Montana, according to Webb Brown. This is the state, and through the data they collect. One of the number one reasons why people come to this region, or the reason why they request information, is for history and ghost towns. So let's make this even better. Let's give people who already have experience and have knowledge of national parks and who know about the Bighorn Battlefield and Grant Coors Ranch, among other fabulous places, give them the opportunity to stop here and truly make Butte shine. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Holly, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria. And thank you, Madam Chair and members of the council. My name is Holly Sambo. I'm with the National Parks Conservation Association. I'm at 418 North B Street, Livingston, Montana. Is it up? Okay. I'm just going to wait a minute until the PowerPoint comes up.
John's working furiously over there, I think.
Oh, okay.
Here we go.
All right. So, as you know, I'm here to discuss the National Historical Park effort in Butte. As many of you know, this is not a new effort. This effort has gone back all the way to the 80s. But the reason why I think this effort right now is ripe is because, and a big reason, is because of the consent decree. So in the past, the National Park Service was concerned about having a National Park Service site in a Superfund area. They had become responsible parties at other sites. They didn't want that to happen. Now that you have signed the consent decree, I don't think that's going to be a concern for them anymore. And I also think not only is this ripe, but it is long past due. Butte's contributions on the national and world stage deserve national park status. Next slide, please. Oh, back one. So the reason why I'm here is a few members of the Butte community reached out to our organization, the National Parks Conservation Association, because they knew we had expertise in working with both the Park Service and members of Congress to get national park designations. We were established by the same people that started the National Park Service over 100 years ago, and our mission is to be an independent citizen voice for the national parks. So we both protect parks that are already established, but we also work with communities to establish new parks and make sure that the full American story is being told through the National Park Service. Next slide. An example of a community and a park site that we worked with to get a site that we worked with to get national park status is Pullman in Chicago. Pullman is very similar to Butte, has very similar history. It's a community that was established around one industry. In Pullman, that was the railroads. It was kind of the same time period as Butte, had many similar labor movement stories as Butte. And also, the industry brought in the wealth that made the beautiful building that you see in this photograph and many others in the community, and left it with some amazing architecture. Next slide. But also similar to Butte, when this industry left, a lot of the buildings were abandoned and left to fall apart. A lot of people in the community left, and these grand structures didn't have anybody there to take care of them anymore. Next slide, please. But also, similar to Butte, Pullman was resilient, and they kept finding ways to reinvent and revitalize their community, and they decided they wanted a park site as part of this revitalization. So the image that you see below is the revitalized clock tower. This is a $35 million investment through private funds in the Park Service. This is where the visitor center for the park is. It just opened up this past Labor Day with 12,000 visitors on its opening weekend. And so, next slide. What I hear from people in Butte is they want something very similar to Pullman. They want to see a national park site as part of the revitalization of their community. In Pullman, a lot of other things are going on outside of the national park. Just like Butte, they have other groups, other projects going on. I think in Butte, a national historical park fits really well with what's happening with the Uptown Master Plan and what's happening with the consent decree projects that will come out from that. Next slide, please. So that's where we find ourselves tonight, and that's why we're here. I'm gonna make sure I just skipped one of my pages. So we've been talking with groups over the past year, groups that are involved in tourism, economic development, historic preservation, and they all have supported this effort. And so, one more click. So we've pulled together a team that is advising, that we are working with as an advisory team in the community, representing these different interests. Many of those folks are here with me today: Jim, Aubrey, Karen, Maria, and then the others listed up there. And we've been working to identify what a national historical park would look like for Butte. Who are the people we need to be talking to? We want to get input from as many people as possible. We want this to be an inclusive process if we move forward with it. So next slide. What we've heard from the community is what they like is the Park Service's model of a partnership park. And so what a partnership park does is the Park Service takes over one building and has a visitor center in it, and then they work with all of the cooperating properties to have the full park site. So an example here is Keweenaw, which is in Michigan. It's a national historical park. It's also centered around copper mining. The Park Service has the Calumet Visitor Center. They tell the overarching story of the mining, the labor movement, the immigration, And then they work with all the other sites to tell a deeper story. So they send people out to go to these other sites. There are 23 cooperating sites as part of the National Historical Park site. They are independently run and operated. They just get support from the Park Service. And so kind of what Maria was talking about, that is what we've heard from the community, is one, there is a lack of information in Uptown, so when people come to Uptown, they don't have a place to go to learn about everything that's happening in the community or at all the sites that are in the community. And then two, all of these sites feel really disparate, like they're not connected, they don't have a way to tell a story cohesively. And so the Park Service would offer that, and that they would tell that overarching story and then send people out to these sites. There's also the signage shown on the right picture here, where all of those sites have the sign, they have the Park Service logo. People can see immediately, oh, this is part of the National Historical Park. I learned about this at that visitor center. I want to come here and learn more. So, next slide. So what's next is we are still in the outreach phase. We're still talking to people. We want to get as much input as possible. We're not going to take next steps unless we are sure that there's support in the community for this. A National Historical Park is a legislative process, so we would need, the next steps would be to talk with the Park Service and our members of Congress to pull together legislation. If legislation passed, your park would most likely start out pretty small. There'd be a smaller budget. You'd have 1 or 2 staff. They'd be building a management plan with the community over the years. Typically takes a little bit of time to renovate a visitor center site once one is determined what building that would be in. So realistically, you're looking at from where we're at now to have a fully running park, if everything would go as we would like it to, between 8 to 10 years. So that can seem like a lot, but it really does go through fast. Pullman, we started working on Pullman in 2012. They opened their visitor center this past year. I think with a lot of the things that are happening in Butte, that all of those things are kind of going to coalesce at the same time, and you're really going to have something come together if you start this process now. So I think with that, I just want to leave it at that, and next slide, just open it up for discussion. I think you might all have a lot of questions from that, or we're happy, and any member of the advisory team would be happy to answer questions. So,
Thank you, Holly. Or any council members have any questions for Holly? Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't really have any questions because I had the pleasure of meeting with Holly and Lindsay and Commissioner Callahan last week and kind of listening to this in a more informal setting, which was really wonderful. So I would encourage all of you, if you can get some time one-on-one or one-on-two with Holly and Lindsay or some other members of the team, take advantage of that and talk to her, because it really is an exciting project for Butte.
Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Holly, thank you for the presentation. What kind of commitment is going to be needed from Butte-Silver Bowl? Is there a financial commitment or any kind of commitment that's going to be needed?
So I would say, like, in the beginning of the process, there isn't much. There is, if we would get legislation passed and a property would be identified, the Park Service only can take properties that are donated to them and donated to them from other governments. So it would have to be a county-owned building that would be donated to them. They also can't take any site that hasn't had a hazardous remediation study and remediation done on it. So there would be funds that would need to be raised for that, whether those come from Silver Bowl or we find private donors to raise that funds. That would be that. And then depending on the extent of what you want your visitor center to look like, private funds would most likely need to go into that. Like I said, that Pullman site, but I mean, that is kind of the top tier of sites. It's beautifully done, but it was $35 million, and not all of that was federal funds. So state, local, and private entities raised funds for that. Once a national park is established, though, they have an annual federal budget that they run on their own.
Thank you, Holly.
Any other questions? Commissioner Frederickson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the presentation, Holly. So it sounds like the next steps are contacting our Congress people. is that something the committee's going to be doing, or how do we take the next step, I guess?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, I'm not sure if folks are familiar with a similar effort that was going on in Great Falls, but I just don't want us to get ahead of making sure we talk to everybody, because some folks in Great Falls were looking for a heritage area. They started moving ahead with the process before they had reached out to as many people as possible and made sure that they had a very strong support system. And then some people didn't want that effort and they kind of pushed back on that. So that is the thing that we want to absolutely make sure we're doing here, is that there's really strong support, strong enough support that one or two individuals that aren't wanting this can't torpedo it. And then, yes, we would want to find the people that would be the best messengers and the best people to reach out to our members of Congress and talk to them about this effort. And I think in a lot of ways that will be the business community. I think that our members of Congress are most interested in the community and economic development aspect of this project for Butte.
Thank you, Holly. And I also am very excited about the prospect of this happening. And I was wondering, just come back and give us an update. I guess that's all I can ask for right now, right?
Wonderful.
This looks really exciting. Commissioner?
Thank you, Madam
You
Chair.
got
Holly, I just wanted to thank you and your crew for all the work you guys have done. I mean, we met a couple before COVID, as we say now.
Yes.
And it was just kind of talk to see what, you get a feel of what the community was wanting and whatever, and then COVID hit and things have slowed down. But you and your committee, after talking to you the other night, you guys have done an incredible amount of work so far in a short time, and we really appreciate your work you're doing for the community. And, you know, a good leader to keep a group going is the main thing, and you got some good people on your committee, and I just want to comment that you guys are doing a great job, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Holly and Aubrey and Maria and
Thank you again.
everyone else that's involved in this. I'm really excited. Thanks. Okay. All right. Moving along, we'll go to Section 1, Communications. Item 1 is Communication 2021-131. Ed Lester, Butte-Silver Bow Sheriff, requesting Council Commissioners' concurrence and authorization for the Chief Executive to sign the Memorandum of Understanding between Butte-Silver Bow and the Southwest Montana Drug Task Force. Sheriff Lester asked me to hold this in advance for another week, and he will come forward with another communication that really will provide an updated MOU itself. So at this time, we'll continue to hold it in advance. Item 2, communication number 2021-299, Tristan Thomas, residing in Butte, Montana, requesting Council of Commissioners to authorize Tristan Thomas to purchase the following property located at 2422 Pine Street, Butte, Montana. I did talk to land sales this week, and they are still awaiting a survey on this property, so we'll continue to hold that in advance. Item 3 is communication number 2021-335, Michael and Kellyanne Hoven, 241 Williams Street in Walkerville, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to purchase vacant land currently owned by Butte-Silver Bow. The land we are hoping to acquire includes a .06 acre parcel and a segment of another 10-acre tract. Again, this couple is also awaiting a survey to be completed, and as soon as we get that back into the land sales department, we'll get their recommendation. We'll hold that in advance. Item 4, communication number 2021-538, Ed Lester, Butte-Silver Bow Sheriff, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization for a public hearing to be conducted on December 1st, 2021 for a budget amendment to increase the sheriff budget 2021-22 due to unexpected revenue. And that did occur last week. So Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to place communication number 2021-538 on file.
We have a motion and a second to place communication 2021-538 on file. Would everyone please vote? Would anyone care to change their vote? Would the clerk please record the vote?
11 yea, 0 nay.
Motion passes. Item 5, communication number 2021-540, Ed Randall, Community Enrichment Director, requesting Council Commissioners' authorization for a public hearing to be conducted on December 1st, 2021, for a comment on amending the 21-22 Animal Service Department budget. This did occur last week on the 1st, so Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to place communication number 2021-540 on file.
We have a motion and a second to place communication 2021-540 on file. Would everyone please vote? Or is there anything on the question? Would everyone please vote? Would anyone care to change their vote? Would the clerk please record the vote?
11 yeas, 0 nay.
Motion passes. Item 6, communication number 2021-563. Eileen Joyce, Butte-Silver County Attorney, requesting Council Commissioners authorization for a public hearing to be scheduled for December 1st, 2021, regarding the franchise agreement between the City County of Butte-Silver, Montana, and Spectrum Pacific West, known locally as Charter Communications. That also did occur last week on December 1st. So, Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to place communication number 2021-563 on file.
We have a motion and a second to place communication 2021-563 on file. Anything on the question? Would everyone please vote? Anyone care to change their vote? Would the clerk please record the vote?
11 yeas, 0 nay.
Motion passes. Item 7, communication number 2021-569. Dan Dennehy, Butte-Silver Office of Emergency Management Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to allow a bid to be opened at the Council's regular meeting on December 15th for one 400 kilowatt diesel generator and one automatic transfer switch for the Butte Civic Center. We will hold that in abeyance until next week, December 15th. Item 8, communication number 2021-570. Karen Malachny, Butte-Silver Interim Health Officer, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to schedule a public hearing for December 15th, 2021, for the purpose of amending the fiscal year 21-22 budget to allow for increased expenditures of unanticipated revenue resulting from an amendment to the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Grant. We will hold that in advance until next week's meeting, December 15th. Number 9, communication number 2021-571. Karen Malachny, Butte-Silver Interim Health Officer, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to schedule a public hearing for December 15th for the purpose of amending the fiscal year 2021-22 budget to allow for increased expenditures of unanticipated revenue resulting from an amendment to the immunization grant. We will hold that in advance till next week's meeting, December 15th. Item 10, communication number 2021-573. Mark Neary, Public Works Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to schedule a bid opening for December 15th, 2021 for supplying chemicals to be used by the Butte-Silver water and wastewater treatment plants and Ridgewater's Water Park. We will hold that in abeyance for the bid opening on the 15th of December. And I believe the last item is 11, communication 2021-574. Mark Neary, Public Works Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to schedule a public hearing for December 15th, 2021, for the purpose of soliciting comments on the preliminary engineering report for the 2021 Water Master Plan. We will hold that in abeyance for the public hearing to occur on December 15th. And at this time, I would ask for any public comment on any public matter not on the agenda. I don't see anybody out there to do that, so is there anything else to come before us? Seeing none, I would like to have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye.